You're welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to be looking at controlling delegated legislation. So how does the parliament control the powers that they delegate or the powers that they give to other individuals or other bodies to make laws? So how does the parliament control delegated legislation to make sure that these people that they have given the powers, they do not go overboard? So the mechanisms that are put in place to control delegated legislation, and we have 4 of them. The first one is parliamentary veto, then we have the consultative process, we have the judicial scrutiny, then we have the ultra vires doctrine. These are the 4 mechanisms that are put in place to control delegated legislation. So we are going to look at each of them in details. So the first one is parliamentary veto. Parliamentary veto. So here Parliament reserves the power to withdraw authority to the delegated person or institution if authority is misused. So if they give that power to someone to be able to make laws and they misuse it, Parliament has the power or the right to withdraw that authority or to take it away from them. So Parliament reserves the power to withdraw authority to the delegated person or institution if that authority is misused. Then secondly is that Parliament normally subjects any subsidiary legislation to scrutiny before it comes into force. Scrutiny refers to careful and detailed examination or review of something. So Parliament normally subjects any subsidiary legislation or any delegated legislation to careful examination and review before it comes into force. So that is what we call parliamentary veto. Then the second mechanism that we have is the consultative process. It comes from the word consulting. So here, before a proposed statutory instrument is concluded, we say the statutory instrument, these are laws that are made by ministers mainly. The ministers that are in charge of government departments. So before a proposed statutory instrument is concluded, the interested parties are normally consulted for views and comments. So before finalizing a statutory instrument, stakeholders or interested parties are consulted to gather their views and comments. For example, before passing the labor laws that affect very many stakeholders, they have to first consult those stakeholders like the business people, the employers, the associations, the labor unions, and any other relevant industry stakeholder. They are supposed to be consulted to avoid adverse impacts on business operations. So the consultative process also helps to control delegated legislation so that unnecessary laws are not passed or are not enforced. Then the third mechanism that we have is the judicial scrutiny. So judicial, it is something that is related to court. And scrutiny, we said it means careful examination and review of something. So judicial scrutiny is the third mechanism that we have. So here, courts are normally invited to scrutinize the validity of statutory instruments. So here, courts examine and review whether the statutory instruments that are to be passed are valid. So courts are normally invited to scrutinize the validity of statutory instruments on grounds relating to the content to see whether it falls within or outside the scope of the parent act, to see whether there was failure to comply with the requisite procedure, or whether they are following the process properly, then whether there is any incompatibility with the fundamental human rights. Yeah, so that is another mechanism, judicial scrutiny, whereby the court examines the statutory instruments on different grounds as mentioned below. Then the last mechanism that we have is the ultra vires doctrine. The ultra vires doctrine, so ultra vires, it's when someone goes beyond their power to do something that is beyond their power. So it's like going overboard. So one effective way of controlling delegated legislation is by application of the ultra vires doctrine. So this one, a piece of delegated legislation is ultra vires or invalid if it exceeds the powers contained in the enabling act, or if it offends certain presumptions of the law. So if someone comes up with laws or regulations that are beyond their power, that law or that legislation is regarded as invalid or ultra vires. So this mechanism is used to control delegated legislation so that they don't come up with unnecessary laws. So these are the presumptions that we have when it comes to ultra vires, the ultra vires doctrine. A person who has been given powers of delegation cannot delegate them to another person. If they give you the powers, you're not supposed to give it to someone else, so there is no sub-delegation. A delegate cannot sub-delegate. It is not allowed. Then the Enabling Act does not give power to make unreasonable rules or rules that infringe basic constitutional rights. So it does not give someone power to make unreasonable rules. So those are the four mechanisms that are used to control delegated legislation: the ultra vires doctrine, the judicial scrutiny, the consultative process, and the parliamentary veto. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends. Let's catch up in my next video.